A man's uneventful life is disrupted by the zombie apocalypse.
This is Ryan.
And this is Ashley.
And this is Ruining Our Childhood, the Bonisode.
Yeah. I didn't know if you wanted me to say that with you.
I like when you say it with me. It does actually throw me off a little when you don't.
Yeah. When you said Bonisode, I thought you were going to say boner.
Oh,
Sode.
The Bonersode. It's an episode about Porky's, the 1982 movie.
Or boners.
A movie just about boners.
Hi, guys. It's Ashley.
It's Ryan.
And this is our first mini episode that we're doing exclusively for the Ruiners Club.
Yeah.
And if anybody's listening, then hi, thank you for joining the Ruiners Club.
We welcome you.
Or maybe you're listening to this because I put it on our regular feed to entice you into joining the Ruiners Club.
I was just thinking about how it's a fan club, and when I was a kid, if you ever joined a fan club, you would get like a little membership card.
Yeah.
We should get people membership cards so they can have a Ruiners Club card in their wallet. Even though it's a bunch of 30-year-olds listening to our podcast.
Just pull it out Yep.
Let me get out my debit card, my credit card, my driver's license. Oh, here's my Ruiners Club card. Okay, I'm ready to go on my airplane ride.
I mean, that's an amazing idea that maybe we'll have to consider.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we could probably print up some decent priced ones on Vistaprint. They're always doing $9.99 for business cards.
There you go.
I don't know if they still do that. It was like 10 years ago.
Inflation's got it up to $11.99.
At least.
Yeah.
So guys, hi. If you haven't noticed by the summary I read, we are doing Shaun of the Dead. Also, it should be listed on the episode line.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I will say the log line was kind of vague.
I liked it though.
Yeah, it was very short and sweet, to the point.
There's been so many times where we've watched a movie and I'm looking up the summary to say it for the episode, and I'm like, why don't we just give away the whole plot?
Yeah.
And I end up editing myself because...
That, or I feel like the amount of them that you've read and you're like, who wrote this?
Yeah.
Did they pass third grade English? Terrible grammar.
I don't know how it gets chosen on IMDb,
Mm-hmm.
again with the BD.
Yeah. They got beady eyes.
But yeah, sometimes they're just not written very well. Since this is our first minisode, we do have some sort of structure, but it's a little looser
Yeah.
than our regular episodes. Basically, we're rewatching movies that we love and we consider untouchable to watch for a regular Ruining Our Childhood episode.
Mm-hmm.
And this week we're doing Shaun of the Dead, the 2004 classic starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, among others.
Yes.
I said Nis Frost. Nick!
I just thought of Jessica Day.
A new girl.
Yeah.
So, basically, we're just going to talk about how much we love it
Mm-hmm.
and kind of talk about some key points. We did rewatch it
Yes.
already. And, yeah, I don't know if you want to kick us off.
Yeah. What is your memory of the movie?
I didn't see it in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if it was in theaters where I lived in Montana. But I did, at the time I was working at a video store. R.I.P. video stores.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some somewhere.
Not many.
Yeah.
There's
but-
like one Blockbuster left, and it's like in Oregon.
Yeah. This one was not a Blockbuster. It was a smaller business. But we would get copies of movies that hadn't come out yet.
Mm-hmm.
And our boss would let us rent them beforehand. And we got this one, and I was like, oh, that sounds amazing, because I love zombies. I've already discussed this on numerous episodes. But I remember taking it home and watching with my brother, and I believe his wife, who wasn't his wife at the time, but I want to say Brandy was there, and just loving it instantly.
Yeah.
It was everything I'd ever want a comedy zombie movie to be. So
Yeah, very much.
How about you?
For me, a little different. You introduced me to this movie.
Did I?
Yeah.
I am so amazing.
Back in good old, I would say it was very early in our relationship when we would just get together and watch movies together. I want to say this would have been one of the first ones we watched. And I will say, I remember it being in theaters here where we live now. And I kind of glossed over it and just was like, that looks like, and I think it's a lot because of the name, sounds just like Dawn of the Dead, which had come out 6 months earlier.
Yes.
And so I thought it was one of those shitty, cheesy parodies like Epic Movie or Vampires Suck, where it was going to be just an over-the-top parody.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have been more wrong.
There's definitely, rewatching it now and actually paying attention and writing down some notes, there are definitely references to zombie movies.
Yeah.
But they do it in a way that's really respectful of the material, and they pay homage to all the great zombie movies instead of just kind of having all these pop culture references that, like Scary Movie, I definitely want to do it for the podcast one time because it was, at the time, a really, really funny movie, and the second one was always my favorite Scary Movie, too. But I think rewatching it now, it would be so outdated because a lot of the references is what was happening the year it came out. It wasn't just about scary movies. It was, they were referencing a lot of things.
I distinctly remember Scary Movie 2 referencing those Nike commercials where they were just dribbling a basketball and you could hear the shoes squeaking.
And
that is fucking dated as hell.
Yeah, we would understand it, but if a 16-year-old's watching it, they're going to be like, I don't know, I don't get it.
No clue what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I think those movies don't really hold up in general. But this movie doesn't rely heavily on references.
No.
At all. That's crazy. I didn't know I was the one. I mean, I probably remembered at the time because I probably was like, have you ever seen Shaun of the Dead? You haven't? You're crazy.
Yeah. It's such a funny movie. You're going to love it. And
that sounds like 19-year-old Ashley.
And I'm just thinking, I must have, especially, 22-year-old pretentious know-it-all Ryan was probably going, this movie's going to suck. But yeah, let's watch it.
Versus 35-year-old pretentious know-it-all Ryan. Am I right?
You suck.
So, this is obviously a cult classic, I would say.
Yes.
Why do you think this movie resonates with so many people?
We kind of talked about it. I'm like, well, it sounds like a parody. The zombies look legitimate.
Yes.
They're not over the top. And it is a comedy, but at no point do they touch cheesiness. So I think that alone helps. And I feel like over the years, Nick Frost and Simon Pegg have now starred in 4 movies together, including this, Paul, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. All of them have exceptionally high Rotten Tomato scores.
Yes.
I think the trilogy has I think the lowest one's an 88. So I would say more than anything, those two have built up insane goodwill with moviegoers. So it's just like you're signing up to go laugh your butt off and be entertained. And it's not by any means a shitty parody. What about you?
I agree. I think it's still really funny. I crack up literally almost every other line. To me is hilarious. And at this point, I've seen it so many times that I can quote it. I also feel like it has a lot of heart. Like, there's a lot of actual emotional scenes, almost more emotional than a serious zombie movie.
Very true.
Shaun has to shoot his mom in the head. He comes to terms with his stepdad. He has a rocky relationship with him, and he finally acknowledges that he is his dad right before he dies.
He's kind of going through almost a breakup.
Yes.
And
he's coming to terms with, that rough transition of becoming an adult. And I think that's something that I remember that plot from watching it firsthand, but being an 18-year-old watching this movie, that idea of you're almost 30 and you're still hanging out with your buddy at the bar every single night, that wasn't a thing for me. But now I'm like, yeah, it does start to get exhausting. And when do you want to get out of your dead end job, which So that resonates with me now as an adult. Yeah, it's just a really well done movie overall too. I think it's because it doesn't rely on just being a comedy too. It has that depth of other things.
Yeah, definitely. You bring up an excellent point about just the heart that the movie has. It's not just a comedy.
Yeah.
It's a very well-made movie.
Yeah, and it's funny, too, because I'm like, even in the serious moments, at the end of the movie where they feel like they're trapped in the cellar and they're considering killing each other, him and Liz.
Yeah.
Like, it's serious, and if you sat there for a second, you're like, that's some heavy shit. But then he's like, just trying to imagine, like, killing her first and then killing himself, and he does, like, the explosion in the back of his head. And it's just the simplest thing, which is hilarious, but it's also like, that's depressing. But yeah, it's great.
It is great.
Was there any plot points you wanted to talk about, or do you want to move on to some of the funnier moments?
I think the one plot point, and you definitely touched on it, is the fact that the relationship with his mom, like he adores his mom, and having to go with that struggle of, oh my God, I'm going to have to shoot my mom. And that one guy who's in their group, David, is just, you got to shoot her. And he's like, that's my mom.
Yeah.
And he finally ends up doing it.
Which I think every zombie movie has that kind of scene where you have to shoot a loved one and you have to make that hard choice. And it's funny to me that a comedy like Shaun of the Dead has more depth in it and the way he was crying in it than like I can think of any of the other zombie movies that I love.
Yeah.
Where they're kind of become like cold and jaded. They're like, I guess I gotta kill my sister, you know?
No, yeah. It's really Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright. Just their writing in this movie is fantastic.
Yeah. Also, I was kind of thinking about it because obviously we're not in a zombie apocalypse right now. We're dealing with a pandemic and we're kind of being shut off from the world. But I think what resonates with me is that at the beginning of the movie, Shaun has these problems in his life where, you know, his girlfriend, his parents want him to become more of an adult and reach his potential. And he's stuck in this job that he's been in for a long time. He's 29, which made me feel old when he said I'm 29 because I'm obviously past that age now. But he's working with a bunch of 17-year-olds, so that makes him feel great. But the minute, you know, that outbreak happens and he realizes it, it's like all those problems are so trivial.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like when you're going through this world we live in right now, some of the problems that I had like 2 months ago, like with certain aspects of my life, like it seems so trivial now. So that to me like resonated too, because if it's the end of the world, things start to come into focus and you realize there's stuff that you worried about before the end of the world that you're like, why?
Why was I worried about that? Yeah, exactly. That's so minuscule and pointless compared to it's literally life or death.
Not that I'm saying it's the end of the world, guys. We're going to get through this, but you know.
I get what you're saying.
What was some of your funniest moments that you loved in this movie?
We kind of talk about how this movie is well written and has a lot of heart, but anytime Ed would pass gas and say, I'm sorry, Shaun, and Shaun's like, it's okay, man. And he's like, no, I'm sorry. And then he hits him with the delayed fart smell, and Shaun would just like, oh, God. I'm sorry. I'm a sucker for a good fart joke. It got me every time.
You would.
Yeah.
As I get older, I'm not as big of a fan of fart jokes, but I will say this is an exception for me because they don't even have to like make sounds or anything like that. It's just the concept of it.
Yeah, there's actually literally no sound.
Yeah, because that's what part of the joke is too.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines in this movie is when Shaun goes to get Liz, David, and Diane. And she's talking to him in her bedroom, and she's like, oh, you want to... Oh, no, it was before the outbreak. It's when he goes to her house because he fucked up again and didn't make reservations for the restaurant. And she's like, oh, you want to hang out with my friends? A failed actress and a twat? And he's like, that's not fair. I never called Diana a failed actress. I love that.
Because David is.
He is.
He is.
The definition of one.
God.
Did you have anything else you wanted to talk on this?
I love this scene where it's like the night before the outbreak, or the night of the outbreak, actually, I would say. And Ed and Shaun are hanging out at the Winchester, just getting drunk. And they leave the Winchester and they're singing White Lines by Grandmaster Flash. Mm-hmm. And they come out and they're like, you know, white lines. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. And there's this zombie walking down the street moaning,
right,
but he's doing it perfectly in sync. So they think he's just singing with them. So they just keep going. Da-da-da-da-da. Ooh. Cracks me up every time.
It's an amazing part. I think the one thing I do love about this movie is the repetitiveness. I can't talk to say that word. But the repetition of jokes. Mm-hmm. And also, like, in the first scene, before anything bad's happening, the opening of the movie, he has a routine he does every single day, pretty much. He goes down to the shop, grabs a soda, talks to the shop owner, goes back, hangs out with his buddy, and then goes to work. Mm-hmm. But the day after, you know, the outbreak, and he's still doing it, and all the stuff that he ignores.
Yes.
Like, there's dead bodies, there's zombies walking around.
There's blood all over the cooler and on the floor. He slips, and he doesn't even acknowledge what's going on.
I love how that is. It's just so perfect.
There's so many scenes in here that they're not even funny. They're just so well done. Right after that, he comes back to the house, and he's sitting there flipping through the channels, and he's stopping on every channel for a second, and just whatever word is said on the channel, or words, it is formulating the perfect news briefing as to what is going on.
Yeah.
Insanely well done.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
In the garden scene, like with the girl in the garden, mm-hmm. like my favorite line is when he's just like, oh my God, she's so drunk. Because it's just that moment before they realize, like, oh, shit is really happening. It's that concept of being so safe, and that's not your first thought is like, oh, that's a zombie. Your first thought is, what is wrong with that lady? She must be drunk.
She must be drunk.
Yeah. And I just loved it. And then I love when Ed winds the disposable camera after they realize there is something worse going on, because she falls onto the pole.
Yeah.
And she
base for like an umbrella.
Yeah. And then she pulls herself out, and he's just winding the camera. It's just little things like that just get me in this movie.
And their plan of action to attack her was to get vinyl records, but then take the time to look which vinyls they were throwing, because you can't throw Purple Rain, but you can throw the Batman soundtrack.
Yes. I do like in the scene right after you were talking about when they come home from drunk in the bar, and Pete, their roommate, who's really serious and, you know, an adult, mm-hmm. comes down and is like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And he throws his album out the window, and he's like, that was the second album I've ever bought. And then he repeats it again when Ed throws it at the girl in the garden. Yeah.
The last one that just really got me is when David yells at Shaun that you were having a tiff with your boyfriend and blowing our cover, and Shaun quickly informs him that Ed's not my boyfriend, and Ed immediately hands him a drink.
Yeah.
Hands the drink to Shaun, but like cautions him about the temperature. Yeah. And Sean's just like, oh, thanks, babe.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that.
Just perfectly done.
It reminds me of like the dynamic between Troy and Abed on Community, which is one of our favorite shows. We've mm-hmm. mentioned it several times. But just that dynamic of like they're best friends and they're not insecure about their relationship.
No.
I think I could list 99% of the movie, but again, this is supposed to be a mini episode. So in this exclusive episode, we do have some amazing awards. Unless did you want to do dated references? Sorry.
I only had a couple, and I will say it's not truly a dated reference yet, but I did want to touch on it, is Shaun works at an electronics store.
Yeah.
And yeah, the electronics are all dated, but I feel like the job of working in an electronics store has a lot of potential to be a very dated reference here in about 2 years.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I mean, we barely even have any retail stores that are just Best Buy, and I feel like that place is
it's hanging on by a string.
Scooby-Doo ghost town.
Yeah. So, it's not yet out of it, but it's going that way.
Yeah, I agree. There's just so many parts. Like when they're discussing their plan, like after they realize that the world is ending and that there's zombies, they keep re-editing their plan and everything just keeps getting shorter, like kill Phil.
Go get Mom,
Yeah.
kill Phil, go to the Winchester and have a pint and wait for this all to play out.
Yeah. To blow over.
Oh, blow over. I apologize.
It's okay.
Yes.
Do you want to move on to the awards, or did you have anything else?
No, let's hit them with some awards.
You want to introduce the first one? We didn't discuss this.
Yes. Our first award, we do not have the Thomas J. Hanks Award.
No.
We instead, equally prestigious, we have the Emily Jean Stone Award for delightful acting, a.k.a. the Emma Stone Award, a.k.a. the Stony.
The Stony.
The Stony. Who did you give your award to?
I had to give it to Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
Just his character overall, obviously being the main character, he got some of the funnier lines, but he also had that, that emotional scene where he was like crying over his mom's body. Well, she wasn't quite dead yet, but she was dying. And everything he said was either funny or really emotional. So I loved it. And obviously the movie wouldn't be anywhere without him.
No, as much as I love Nick Frost, it's his arc that carries the movie more than anything.
For sure.
And he's just amazing in this. And it's funny because you just think of right after this, his career really does blow up more so than Nick Frost does. He's in Star Trek. He's in the Mission Impossible movies. He has a cameo in one of the Star Wars movies. He's in a ton of stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
He's just delightful. We
do have an extra award in our minisodes. This is the kind of content you'll get when you join the Ruining Our Childhood fan club. It's the Scene Stealing Award, aka the Stanley Tucci. Because we were trying to think of an actor that is never ever really the lead.
Yeah.
But is always really good in all of the movies he's ever been in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Stanley Tucci. Yeah.
That's very true. Who did you give yours to?
I kind of went back and forth, and before we watched the movie, I just assumed I'd be giving it to Nick Frost. He's the sidekick in the movie. He's great. But I actually gave it to Bill Nighy, who plays Simon Pegg's stepfather, Philip, because he really... he steals all the scenes he's in.
Yeah,
to the
that's
point
true.
He goes and visits Shaun at his job. They have a kind of a funny interaction there, but it's also like it would be if your dad's talking down to you about going and visiting your mother.
Yeah.
And then also when he dies and they have that finally, like Shaun comes to terms like, no, he was a really good guy to me and I do like him. So he was just, and he's not in very much of the movie.
Yeah. No, I agree with that assessment. I did give mine to Nick Frost because Ed, I felt like, again, was another part of the movie that I don't know if he wasn't in it. I don't know who else could play Ed.
I agree.
And like just their friendship, especially at the end when they're kind of saying goodbye, even though zombie Ed is hanging out in the garden shed forever, assuming. It did bring a lot of heart to the movie towards the end there. I did really like Liz, and I think I've appreciated Liz more as an adult because I realized that she's kind of more of the straight man than anybody. And she wasn't just that like typical, like, here's a female character who is just there.
Yeah.
Like she had some good moments where she had to be like really strong.
And while she's strong and kind of trying to get Shaun to grow up, she doesn't really come across as that. What's the word I'm looking for? Like the movies where it's a man-child and they have this girlfriend who's a nagging girlfriend.
Yes. That's how a lot of female characters are written.
Yeah. She's not really that. She's just trying to get him to become an adult, but she's not naggy.
Yeah. She I think she was justified in dumping him at the beginning.
Yeah, very much so.
Because she didn't even put it completely on him. Like, she says in the line that she's like, I don't want to wake up one day and just be wondering what happened in my life because I went to the pub every single day. That wasn't the exact line, but
no.
She says that.
Yeah.
And so that's like her too. She's just like, I don't want to be stuck in this cycle of just doing the same thing every single day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I was like very close to giving her an award, but I just couldn't ignore Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Yeah, no, it was...
They make the movie.
It was difficult to not give mine to Nick Frost.
Do you want to announce our new award for not so great actor?
Yes, our last award is the Brendan Fraser, the B. Frage Award for Existing, aka the person that could possibly ruin the movie, but the movie is too good. Whom did you give your award to?
So, I mean, this has happened to us before, but there's movies where there's not necessarily like a bad actor.
Mm-hmm.
I almost choose it more for the character, and I had to give it to David.
Absolutely.
Who is played by Dylan Moran, who actually I thought played the character very well, and I've seen him in other things. He's a great British actor, but I hate him so much.
Yeah.
I like with a passion. He's so pretentious. He hates Shaun. He's in love with Liz. He strings along Diane. He tries to literally shoot Shaun because he punched him in the face because he wanted to shoot Shaun's mom.
Yeah.
And he just is that spineless. He's that guy that if a zombie apocalypse happens, he would, there's people that would turn into that person where they just sit there and bitch the whole time without providing actual solutions.
Yes.
So
I 100% agree. That's who I gave my award to. There's some cameos in this movie, but the cast is pretty compact, down to about maybe 6 people.
Yeah.
Because, Martin Freeman's in this, but he just is in 2 seconds of the movie.
Yeah.
I 100% agree not giving him the award because his acting's bad. It was just like, no, he's just a pretentious D-bag. And we're kind of giving him it on account of that, which, if anything, means the guy was a good actor.
Yeah,
because he made
true.
us hate him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And his death scene was probably the best one. And really, I think it was a reference to, just George A. Romero's really gory death scenes in all of the zombie movies I love. And I felt like when I was younger, when I first watched this movie, I didn't really like Diane. But I actually, rewatching this movie and paying more attention, she is actually way too good for David. And she was kind of like Liz, where she was strong and her and Liz stepped up when they were trying to kill the zombie in the backyard. While Ed and David are just sitting there, and Shaun's like, do you guys want to step in at any point, guys? No? I
also, as far as Diane, she hates Shaun.
Yeah.
But she also agrees with him when he has good ideas about their plan that they're doing. She does not, she didn't let the hatred that she had for Shaun dissuade her and just be like, no, I'm going to side with my douchebag boyfriend over here who is pretentious a-hole just because he's my boyfriend. But she's like, no, Shaun's got a good idea. I agree with him. Let's go this route. Yeah. So.
I actually hated the fact that she chased after David because I was like, you're too good for him and now you're going to die for him.
Yeah,
It was also kind of funny because she took his leg and was hitting zombies with it. So, good moment. So, I don't really know how to end this podcast.
Do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to add?
Other than the reason I found this movie to be untouchable is that it is one of my favorite movies. It combines so many things that I love. And just rewatching it today, it's not even dated. I don't watch it going oh man, that's super dated. Other than some electronics or whatever, but it's just still so good and I love it.
It's a movie that if I had to guess, we watch it probably about once a year.
Yeah.
And even today, I'm sitting there going, I've seen this movie, probably this might be the 14th time. I'm still laughing at it. I know what's coming around the corner, but I'm still intrigued by it and still loving the movie, which I think is just a testament to how good it is and what a good comedy it is. but also just a good movie.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And not so much anymore, but when I first watched it, it was scary at times too. So it's like scary, funny, emotional.
Yeah.
It's got everything.
It really does.
And if you don't agree with us, then I don't know. You're entitled to your opinion.
No, absolutely. If you don't agree with us, throw your comment in one of our posts. I'm sure we're going to have posts on our social medias about it. Tell us that your reason for not liking it.
Yeah, that's true.
Open our eyes.
Open our eyes. You're not going to open my eyes.
You're not
going to
open them. No, our eyes are firmly closed.
So yeah, that was our first mini episode, or as Ryan likes to call it, a bonusode.
Bonusode.
So thanks for listening, guys. Again, thanks for listening.
And joining the Runers
That's what I meant
Club.
to say. I just repeated things.
Thanks for listening, guys, and thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. Oh, did I mention thanks for listening?
And we'll see you guys on Tuesday with a new episode.
But we won't see you again.
Well, I like to tell them I'll see them.
Unless you want to take a picture of you listening to the episode and post it on our social media.
There you go.
No?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do that.
No.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.